I'm Anne Miller now, but I was born Anne Hoffman on the 20th of December 1939, and I was born in the Lady Musgrave Hospital. I'm the youngest of 16 children, and I was the only one born in a hospital. All the others were born at home. My father was the only one born in Australia, but his parents came from Austria, and they lost several children on the way out, and only one survived. I think they lost about 9 children, but one of the sons, Francis, did survive, and then my father was born in 1880. So he was the only one actually born in Australia. My mother's side of the family came from Germany, and it was said they came to escape religious persecution, which, if you look through the history of a lot of people in Maryborough, they did that. They came out to escape the wars and the religious persecution that was taking place in Germany and Prussia. So they came out, I think, in 1875. Well, they came and they were true pioneers. There must have been a group of them that came out from the same area, and they all settled down at the Pocket. And I can remember my old Auntie Edie telling me about what it was like when they first settled there. They built a wattle and daub hut, and at night they could remember the Aboriginals peeping through all the cracks in the logs to see what was going on, but they were never threatened, and they never threatened the Aboriginals. They just went on with it. But she does say that on full moon, they used to bury their dead, of course, around that area, and at the night of the full moon they would come back and scrape the soil from the head of that person. She doesn't know what they did then, and then they would cover it up and go away. Well, my father was, as I said, he was born in 1880, and he went to the Granville school, and he was 13 in the 1893 flood. So he used to tell us quite a few things, and at that time the Aboriginals had all been banished over to that side of the river, the Granville side. And he actually grew up with them, was very friendly, learnt a lot of bushcraft, taught us a lot of bushcraft. And at the time, it was said, oh, that was the biggest flood Maryborough had ever had. Well, that was what the white man was saying. But the Aboriginal said to him, no, mister, it's not. There was a bigger flood than that, so that there was only the hill where we live, where the Aboriginals used to camp, and what is now the hospital hill out of water. So when Dad finished school and got a job, it was his ambition, and he did. He bought the hill that we live on. We've been on there for nearly 100 years. That was because the Aboriginals told him it was a safe place to go. That's why we've always lived on that hill, and I still live there. Actually, I'm the only one left of the 16, so it's quite scary, but all my nieces and nephews like bringing back their friends or their rallies to see the old place and learn its history. And today, you still get little cutting stones and that come working its way up through the soil. And my son is a geologist, and a couple of years ago he was walking through the paddock and he came across, it was a magnificent stone axe head. It was beautifully smoothed and that. And he identified it as coming from granite, coming from the Granville area. You see, from our hill, you look across, you can actually see Bopple Mountain, and the Aboriginals used to gather around there when they had the bunya pines, but had the nuts on and they'd have their little gatherings, but they didn't have to go across the river because they only have to, where we overlooked the river, so they would only have to go around the bend of the river and have no more deep crossings to get to the Bobble Mountain. My mother, it was quite sad for my mother because she had to give up school when she was 10 because her father had died. Her father was a tailor. He had his own business in town. But unfortunately, he'd forgotten to pay the last instalment on his life insurance, so they were left destitute. It was very sad, and she had to leave school, and of course it was painful for her to do that, but she had to help her mother bring up her sisters and brothers because her mother was pregnant when her father died, so she helped her mother do that sort of thing. And well, her mother, this is another story from the past, her mother and her aunt, to earn money, used to sew calico bags for the sugar mill at a penny a dozen. That's all they would get to earn some money to survive. When they first moved over Granville, they lived in a little 2-room hut with an overhang and a dirt floor. And she'd say that she used to put the kids in a packing case so we wouldn't run away or anything like that. But that was, Dad cleared the hill, so it was a lot of work. And they were never threatened or anything with Aboriginals. I think Dad was so friendly with them that the Aboriginals used to come in and talk to Mum and bring her plops missies. She'd always keep some tobacco and they'd say, "Plops missy, backy," and so that would be exchange of props for the clothesline with tobacco. But it's interesting, all the things that used to happen there. As I said, it was just really wild country, and Dad cleared it all and fenced it all. We had a wonderful life. I can remember my sister-in-law saying to me a couple of years ago before she died, "And someone will have to tell everyone what a wonderful life we had." We did. We had so much freedom. We could roam around and never be worried about predators or anything like that. But we made our own fun, and people think I'm pretentious when I say we had our own tennis court and our own cricket pitch, which we did. If you wanted something, there was enough of us to do it. So my sister and brother had got onto an old tennis net, and the rest of the sisters and brothers helped them make a proper grass tennis court, which everyone had to mow, of course. And there's enough in the family to have our own cricket team. So they made an ant bed cricket pitch. Beautiful. And they used to have lots of challenge games against other teams around the place, but there was always enough of us. And of course the sisters had husbands, so we all made up a cricket team. Mum used to say we weren't allowed to go out because there were so many of us, so if something went wrong, one of the Hoffmans would get blamed. But we were allowed to have as many kids there as we liked. And the paddock was always full of people, really was. And as I got older, on Sunday night, on a Saturday, Mum used to bake like mad. And Dad used to go crabbing, and he had his own oyster bank. So we always had, in the end, we were sick of crabs. We had always crabs and oysters and lots of cakes and that on Sunday night. The place would be just full to overflowing of kids, or not kids, they were adults then, and the boys would bring up their guitars, so they would have while the women were washing up, the boys would play the guitar and we'd have a real big sing-song. And we've got a big kitchen. Our kitchen table is 10 foot 9 inches long. So they would just shift the table over to the side, and most of them learned to dance in that kitchen. And people still talk about it today. So I went to the Granville school when I was 5, and I went to high school when I was 10, 2 years earlier, because in those days, if you were smart enough, you just kept getting put up into the next grade. So there was another girl and I, her father was the headmaster, and we were the only girls, so they just kept putting us up to help the boys, I think. But yeah, that was at the Granville school, which was just a 2-room school in those days. And we'd walk to school. We'd wear shoes and socks to school. My nephew used to come over, and we'd go to school together. But we'd take off our shoes and socks and hide them in the gully until we were ready to come home, because no one else wore shoes and socks to school, so we didn't want to be different. And then when we came back, we'd take them out and put them on again. I went to high school. Well, you couldn't leave until you were 15 in those days. And I was always 2 years younger than everyone else in my class. So that was fine. Mentally, I suppose, we could do it. But socially, we had a lot of growing up to do to catch up to the older girls. Marjorie and I used to get together and say, "What are they talking about? They're talking about boys." And that was a bit out of our league at the time. I went to school till I was 15, and then I left and got a job, got married, but then I had 2 boys, and later on I did 2 degrees. I did a Bachelor of Arts through the Queensland Uni, and then I went up to James Cook and did a Bachelor of Museum Management. My cousin owned Brown Silk Store, so I went to work there. Then I met my husband, whose uncle was the Mayor of Maryborough at the time, and he'd come up and got a job at the sugar factory. My brother worked at the sugar factory too, or the sugar mill, and brought Lionel home one night, and we met, clicked and got married. People would argue about politics to me, and I used to, but they never wanted to hear what I said, and I thought, oh well, I'll go and do a degree, which I did. I did Australian government it was mostly Australian politics I studied. And there was only one part missing, and I couldn't do it because they didn't offer it at the uni, and that was local government. And I wrote and asked them, could they do it? And they did. And I was the first one to do local government. So that was really good. And that's how I ended up becoming a part of the council in the end. Yeah. I'd got a job working for Griffith University doing research, and that's what probably precipitated that I went into the council. The federal government had given Griffiths money to do research. It was money from the cigarette taxes, and they'd given it to Griffiths to do research into preventative health. And so I applied for the position and I got it. And I had to do preventive health in Maryborough. There were 3, there was Toowoomba, Rockhampton and Maryborough. The other 2 had budgets, but we didn't in Maryborough. I had to work from a community aspect, and it worked. And, well, we had Health Expos. We had 3 Health Expos, which were very well received, very successful. The ABC actually came up, and they photographed it, and it was put on the ABC. And that actually started off their Healthy, Wealthy and Wise series. And after that went to the ABC, I think I had phone calls from every politician all over Australia wanting to know how they could do it. I was flown up to Townsville to show them how to do it. So we were just so successful with that expo, with those expos. It was everything about health, mind, body and soul. That's what it was. Everything. It was, the churches took part in it, because whatever had to do with health, whether it was mental or physical, it was there for people to see and choose what they wanted to do. We had, all sorts of, the egg board, the bread board. That sounds funny, but it was someone from the bread association or bread came up, and they did demonstrations. People came, all the schools came out to see it. And that wasn't only the Health Expos, we did a lot of other things. We did a Lighten Up campaign, and I had no budget. Everything that was done, the people of Maryborough were absolutely wonderful. Everything that was done free. When we had the Lighten Up campaign, the Neguses, who used to have all the fruit and veggies, they supplied all the fruit and veggies. The hospitals, they used to help with the weighing in. We'd have just about everything you can think we did in those. And then that's how we became a healthy city. And then, even someone from the World Health Organization in America rang up one day to do an interview. So Maryborough is mentioned over there, but that we did the 3 expos, and they were all very, very successful. We won an award from the federal government, and I was flown down to Sydney, and Carmel Lawrence was the Minister for Health at the time. And we got second over Australia for our hike and bike week. But we used to do all sorts of things like that. I did the Health Expo, and they were so successful, and then I was nominated and became Citizen of the Year. So then I was asked to stand for local government, and I did. I was in council at the time, and Sandra Armstrong had been on a Qantas flight, and she read the story of how P.L. Travers, who was born in Maryborough, and it would have been her 100th birthday. So she showed Anne O'Loughlin, who came up to see me at the council, and I straight away rang the Chronicle and saw the council and got $200 from each. And we went ahead and had our first literary competition, and from then it's just grown. And I used to have morning teas on the Town Hall Green, and then that grew into the festival, and you can see the results today. And next year it's going to be even bigger. So I became quite friendly with the Cherry Tree Foundation, and they've been really great with us. and Patricia Feltham, who was a friend of P.L. Travers, came out and unveiled the statue. The year before last, they were talking about making the festival into a 2-week event, and I thought, oh goodness, how are they going to do that? But have you ever read the Mary Poppins book? Because every one of those, there is a moral in every one of those chapters. Because P.L. Travers has thought that our life's teachings are handed down through myth and legend, and she always quotes Sleeping Beauty, because at some time in life we all become so complacent we literally fall asleep, and then it takes something traumatic, and in this case the kiss of a prince, to wake the person up and make them realise that to get on with life. So if you read those books, they should be read on 2 levels. They should be read on a child's level and an adult's level. There's always something to learn. I believe in that saying, the minute when you stop learning, you die. There's always something you've got to know, even if it's the latest bit of gossip.